Thank you very much. The one program that was left out of this equation was the SRED program. And for those of you, I think everybody who's got a business on the side will know a little bit about what SRED is. But Kevin, is it possible for you to give us a couple minutes summary of what SRED is all about, and then we can open the discussion to the panel.
Thank you, panelists. That was very interesting. My name is Kevin Goheen. I'm the Executive Director of the Canadian Academy of Engineering. And I had a question for the panel about this, the SHRED program, a program with which I have a great deal of experience. Just as way of background, I was interested when I saw the program for the Academy today that on this particular panel, there was no mention of the SHRED program, but it's the largest source of government support for R&D in Canada. It's administered by Canada Revenue Agency. It's over $3 billion per year. 20,000 taxpayers take advantage of that, most of them SMEs. Up to 70% of salaries and 40% of other costs can be funded to these taxpayers by tax credits. But what is interesting, as they say, I've worked as a consultant in this field in the past and currently, it's estimated that 1/3 to 1/2 of the claims are never made. Okay, there's underclaiming, and then there's a lot of companies that just don't claim at all because they feel that they're not SHRED eligible. So my question to everybody and the panelists is, do you have experience with the SHRED program? And why do you think that we're leaving $2 billion to $3 billion on the table every year? And if so, how do we fix that?
I can tell you Denovamed, my company, loves the SHRED program. They also love the NRC IRAP program. I can actually give you our real numbers if you want. Currently, we spend $25,000 a year, $25,000 a month on staff. When we add up what we can get from NRC IRAP and add up what we can get from SHRED, this decreases our costs for personnel per month from $25,000 to $2,500, which is helpful. So it's a 90% decrease in what you have to actually pay. That allows us, that really accelerated our capacity to move through the preclinical research that's now got us filing our IND. So we took complete advantage of that program, both those programs, and without them, our little company would have had a much harder time getting the bodies in that have the expertise to actually move it forward. So for us, it worked great.
Rebecca?
Yeah, a couple of comments on that. Well, first of all, for companies that do invest in programs like MyTax, the money they put towards the R&D is SHRED eligible. So we have seen a lot of companies claiming SHRED credits, and we get a lot of questions about it. One thing I have seen, though, in terms of why are we leaving it on the table, a lot of companies at the startup phase are so busy that they also say, well, I don't have time to look at SHRED. I don't know someone needs to help me. And then they have to pay, there's sort of a whole ecosystem around SHRED with consultants. So they have to get people involved. And it's the same thing with all the other funding programs that are available. There's sort of a lack of knowledge, and they have to make the effort to do it. And that takes up time that they don't have to do some other things. That's what I've seen from some companies anyway.
Yeah, to follow up on that, I think, for me, I was a scientist who founded a company. I was the CEO and president for the first 5 years till it grew too big, and it was either quit my job and become the CEO and president, which I thought would be a disservice because I don't have enough business knowledge. I'm the science geek. And so I didn't do that. I hired somebody who had 20 years of experience in MSc, MBA, blah, 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 blah. And so he was completely versed in the SHRED tax credits, even though we were very busy. He said, this is crazy for us to not leave this money on the table. So I think, one of the things scientists have a very difficult thing doing is giving up control of their baby. It's really hard to do. And for me to hire somebody to be my boss in a company that I founded and had babysat for 5 years was a weird decision to have to make. But it was made, and I don't think a lot of people just go there. And even just hiring an accountant, You know, they think, oh, it's going to cost 10 grand to hire an accountant. You're going to get $100,000 back. For God's sake, spend the 10 grand. You know, it's just math. But people just feel they're too busy and they won't even bother. And I don't understand why, to be honest.
There's a really interesting academic paper called Why University Businesses Fail. And not taking advantage of these kinds of programs is first on the list. It's astounding reading. Yes, go ahead.
In the case of the MedTech Consortium, all of the SHRED component is in addition to the program. And we don't mention it typically because we mention it, of course, to the people who are engaged in the projects to remind them to take advantage of this. But we don't describe them in the process because it's so individual that due to the specifics to each and every industry member, they have to drive that piece. But certainly it's in addition. So that's one point. The other point that I wanted to make, I think certainly having tax credits is key. However, I think that whereas before, in past years, Canada, several provinces had very, very aggressive programs for tax credits, and they were recognized as one of the top incentives. Today, from an international point of view, there are numerous countries who have stepped up to the SHRED component as an incentive, and I don't believe that we're leading in that sphere. I haven't looked at all of the details in the past weeks or months, but what I hear is that certainly overall people have caught up with us, and that there's a need for other types of incentives to complement if we're not maintaining our leadership in terms of tax credits. Perception.
Any other questions from the floor? Yes, sir.
A great admirer of the SHRED program, but lately it's been letting us down. Many of the developments that I'm related to are in the area of engineering, device development, product development, and the SR&ED claims, although written in the right style, have been turned down by people who've said that this is normal, this is usual technical development. They don't do that when it's a biology, or it's a chemistry process, but when it's an engineering process, they seem to dismiss it as normal development, and it clearly isn't. It is at risk.